Hello everyone, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn where we will be looking at importing the PSPA file. My name is Sarah and I will be hosting today's session. During the session, if you have any questions, please enter them in the GoToMeeting chat window. I will do my best to answer all your questions before the end of today's Lunch and Learn. A recording of this Lunch and Learn will be available on our desktop help and support portal by the end of the week. So let's get started. Today's session will be divided into three sections. Understanding the PSPA file, where we will look at the details that are contained within a PSPA file. Importing the PSPA file, which I will go through the process of importing. And working with the PSPA data, where I will show you how to review and edit PSPA data once it has been imported into YearbookFusion. So let's take a look at the PSPA file. A typical PSPA file comes as a text document. As you can see, there's a lot of information in here as I scroll along, but it's not lined up very well, so it is a little difficult to read, and if you have any modifications to make, it is rather difficult as well. The text file can be opened in Microsoft Excel so that it is displayed in a more clear manner. As you can see, each piece of information has been placed in its own column. So let's take a look at the different columns of information. So I'll place our headers above it. So column 1 is our volume. This is the type of PSPA file we're working with, so in this case a yearbook. The next column is called name of folder. This is the name of the folder that the images in the PSPA file will be in. This must be exact to the name of the folder. Next is our file names. These are the file names for each image in the PSPA file, and it must be ending in .jpg, and the images must be saved as JPEGs. From then on, we can have different pieces of information, and traditionally we have grade, then last name, first name, homeroom, period, teacher. Then you can have any other additional fields such as department, title, salutation, priority, and groups. The different fields allows you to differentiate between students versus staff and to assign the students to the teacher and grade that they belong to. Next, we're going to take a look at importing the PSPA into YearbookFusion. So we'll go to YearbookFusion, and we're currently on the My Book tab. To begin the import process, you click on the Portraits tab. Then we click on the blue Import Portraits. This is just a little message that will pop up saying to proceed, you'll be prompted to locate the index file, and that this is typically given to you by your publisher and is commonly referred to as a PSPA CD. If you haven't been given one, we recommend canceling the import and contacting your publisher. So I have one, so I'm going to click the import. And then once it's done processing, a file browser will open, and this is where I'll go and find the index file. And I'll select it and click OK. Now here's an opportunity where you can review the column headers and make sure they line up with the correct pieces of information below. So this one currently says grade and is correct, and last name, and there's a scroll bar at the bottom here where you can scroll side to side. If any of the headers are incorrect, you can right click on the header and pick the one that it should be. If you have two rows of headers, you can click the ignore header line and it will turn off one of the rows. Once you're happy, you can go ahead and click import. A temporary folder is created. You click OK, and then allow the software the moment or two it requires to bring in the information. My PSPA file is about 346 records, so if you have one that's larger than that, it will take a tad longer. If you have a smaller one, it will be less. Once the import is ready, you may get a warning like this. This is just kind of a FYI, saying 32 individuals are not part of a department. So that means they're missing a specific piece of information in their data. The images have been placed in bucket 4, and here's a tip to use the make into to correct the problem, because some panel presets require the information to function. So we can hit OK and it will complete the import, and we will receive the confirmation here that 346 records have been imported. So we click OK, and as you can see, we've automatically been redirected to the Portraits tab. So that warning we received, it mentioned buckets. So up at the top here we do have several buckets, and there's one that actually has records in them. That's the warning message we received saying that some of the records have been placed in bucket 4. They have been placed here because they're missing the department information. And the warning mentioned the make into field. So what you can do is select records that are similar. So in this case I'm going to select all the students. And to select them all at once, I can click on the first one, hold my shift key, and then click on the last one. Up at the top here is our make into with a variety of rules. So in this case I'm going to select student, and it will auto-populate several pieces of information on the right, including department. Then I'll select the two teachers using my control key or shift key and select teacher. Once you've updated the missing data, you can go ahead and click the revalidate button right next to the make into field. The software will scan the program and make sure that those images are now good, and we get the confirmation that all information is valid. So we click OK, and you can see bucket 4 is empty. So we can go to this Portraits tab to see the entire PSPA database. On this Portraits tab is where you can also make any necessary corrections. So on the left hand side are your search fields. So you can search by the last name and just begin typing, and it will isolate photos that meet that criteria. Or if you want to look at a group of photos, you can pick any of the fields and use the drop down, and it will show you the images that have that piece of information. If you have corrections to make, you can find the person and click their record, and then over on the right hand side is where you make the corrections. You just go into the field and begin typing, or if it's something like the grade or teacher, you can click the drop down and pick the one that it needs to be. If somebody is missing, you can also add in a missing photo. To do that, you click your add member button, find the photo that you need, and as you see, it won't pop up right away because there's no data associated with it. So what we can do is in either the first name or the last name field, we can type the word undefined, and there's our record. So then we can use the make into field to make her a student, and the information auto populates, and then we can pick the grade and teacher that they belong to. And then as you can see, the names are currently as undefined, so we can go ahead and make those corrections. Once you've made the corrections and you're happy with your PSPA database, we can go ahead and click the Save and Close button in the upper right hand corner. This step is very important. Without clicking the Save and Close button in the upper right hand corner, the upload of the PSPA to our remote server is not completed. But once you click the Save and Close button, that PSPA database, the state it is in, is what is uploaded to our server. So when you create a portrait page, what you upload right now is what is going to be attached to the portrait page when you create it. This upload time will vary from computer to computer, but also it will vary based on the size of the PSPA file. The upload speed is controlled by the internet quality and your computer as well, so those could be a factor in the processing time. Once the upload is complete, we will automatically be redirected to the My Book tab. The My Book tab is then where you would proceed with creating the portrait pages using the PSPA data. That is something that we will take a look at in our next Lunch and Learn next week. Once we're on the Portraits tab, it will finish processing, and then we will receive the Portraits Successfully Imported window. And then it's just pointing out that your portraits have been imported and you can now add portrait pages from the Pages menu. So you click OK, and then to carry on with your portrait pages, you would click back on the Book tab and do Add Pages Portraits. If at any point you decide you need to start from scratch with re-importing, you would first need to come to the Portraits tab and click your Delete Portraits button. However, if you do this, you will not be able to proceed with creating portrait pages. So only delete the portraits if you're 100% sure you wish to start from scratch. So I'd like to thank you all for coming, and we will continue on with portrait pages next week. Thanks for coming and have a great day.